Many immigrants say they're fleeing gang violence in their home countries. In 2017, nearly 30% of unaccompanied minors who entered the U.S. illegally came from El Salvador. The nation has one of the world's highest murder rates. Omar Villafranca continues his reporting from the country in a town torn apart by violence.
We are in the town of Santa Ana, about an hour outside of the capital. And even here, the two main gangs, MS-13 and Barrio 18, have tremendous power, and they're not afraid to resort to violence. Teresita always keeps the memorial candles lit for her grandson Anthony, another victim of the violent gang MS-13. She says he was not a gang member. It's one thing to die in an accident. He was murdered. We're not using this family's last name because their lives might be in danger. One of Anthony's childhood friends was a member of MS-13, and to move up in the gang, he killed Anthony in 2010. With the help of forensic scientist Israel Ticas, Teresita searched all over for his body. 2 years later, his remains were discovered, cut up and stuffed in a septic tank. The violence is worse now, he says, than it was in the Civil War. On Tuesday night, police caught 26 suspected gang members, many of them accused of extortion, the gang's main source of income. Its message is simple, plata o plomo, a motto that basically means pay me silver or take my lead. There is an American connection to that successful raid. American tax dollars help pay to train those police officers. The U.S. government sent $72 million in aid to El Salvador last year, but it's down to $46 million this year. That's too little, too late for Teresita. Anthony's death destroyed the family. This house used to be full when my kids and grandkids were here, she said. But now not everybody is here. I feel alone. Teresita says she has tried to go to the U.S., but her visa was denied. She can't afford to move from here, so now she says her fate is in the hands of God. Elaine?
Well, Omar, as you said, many migrants are actually fleeing from gang violence in El Salvador. What other factors are causing Salvadorans to try to immigrate to the United States?
Simply put, it's money. There's not a lot of money to be made here. Economically, this area is pretty depressed, and there's not a lot of jobs. And keep in mind, some of the Salvadorians have family members that are already in the U.S. that fled during the Civil War in the 80s and early 90s. So their status is a little bit different than from other countries. That protected status actually ends for immigrants from El Salvador in the U.S. in September of 2019. The big question is what's going to happen to them? Are they going to get kicked out of the country? That's the big question that everybody wants to know here.
Well, the government of El Salvador has condemned the Trump administration's separation policy. How are people in the country reacting to the U.S. government's actions?
We've talked to a few people who honestly were not aware of what was going on. It was something that they had kind of heard, but it wasn't really affecting them because they were really just living their day-to-day life here. There's other people who we talked to who said, while it's horrible, if they're living in an area that's controlled by a gang, they're willing to take that chance. The zero tolerance policy was not a deterrent for them. They were willing to cross through Central America, cross through Mexico, across the deserts, to get to that South Texas border or a border in New Mexico and Arizona, to risk it to try to get over, because in some places, in some neighborhoods that are controlled by the gangs, it's that bad.
All right. Omar Villafranca for us. Omar, thank you.